When Marvel announced that they were making a movie about a tree and a talking raccoon, there was a collective, what? Little did we know that Guardians of the Galaxy would become one of the most successful franchises in the history of the MCU. James Gunn would build a team that would rival the Avengers. Although, as we know, nothing stays pure forever, and what was happening behind the camera threatened to take down this franchise from the inside. So how did this franchise come so far, only to nearly lose it at the finish line? I want to take you back to 2012. Kevin Feige's idea for a connected cinematic universe finally came true with Avengers that broke both the box office and the world. The world was riding this wave of superheroes. With the world now hooked on the MCU, we were all eagerly waiting to see what they had in store for us next. And to our surprise, they came out with Guardians of the Galaxy. Even some of the most die-hard comic book fans didn't know who these characters were. And when you add a yet unproven director like James Gunn, who had only been known for writing films like Scooby-Doo and Dawn of the Dead, the reboot by the way, we were all skeptical. We were also dead wrong. With the help of screenwriters Nicole Perlman and Dad Abnett, they would ink their way into Marvel's newest family. In 2014, Guardians of the Galaxy came out to rave reviews. This film felt truly unique than anything else that we had seen in the MCU. This film had so much heart and passion and also world building to things that we haven't yet seen in the MCU. This is the first time we got to see the cosmic side of the MCU, and it did not disappoint. Each of the characters were uniquely compelling. In fact, Rocket and Groot became fan favorites quickly despite most of the jokes before the release being targeted against them. Chris Pratt went from TV funny man in Parks and Rec to big budget movie action star man, seemingly overnight. Another aspect that made this film stand out was its 80s throwback soundtrack. Now, these songs were not only good on its own, but also integrated very well with the heart of the story. This film would start the trend in seeing those classic pop song films in the soundtrack, things that we have seen to this day. Although, none of them quite have the impact that this film had. Following the surprisingly knockout hit that they had, Gunn and company went right to work developing the second film. At this point, the MCU formula was locked in, with billion-dollar box offices now being standard as the MCU continued to grow hype. Some fans were worried. They started to think that the second film might be forced into playing into the ongoing Infinity Saga, which would in turn lose some of the heart and charm that the first film had. Luckily for us, again, we were wrong. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 would release late 2017. This film is full of heart, passion, and true spectacle. A definition of the term family blockbuster. This film showcased how diverse the MCU had become. From the gritty and real-world drama that was Captain America Civil War to the high-flying space opera, fans were eating good. All of the main cast returned to get more knockout performances, with even some appearances from 80s stars like Kurt Russell, Sylvester Stallone, and even David Hasselhoff. This film also made a killing at the box office, making a little over $863 million worldwide. Along with that, this film also received great reviews, with many fans feeling the passion of the screenplay as compared to some of the other less passionate films that we've seen in the MCU. The death and subsequent funeral of Yondu Udanta remains to this day one of the saddest moments in the history of the MCU. And this is a franchise where half of everybody dies. So take that as you will. This franchise had the makings to be one of the best superhero trilogies of all time. What could possibly go wrong? As I said before, nothing in this world can stay perfect forever. I want to take you back just one more time. Infinity War has just come out. This was the culmination of every single thing that the MCU had been building up to this point. Finally having the Guardians and the Avengers teaming up for the first time was a monumentous occasion in cinema. James Gunn himself was actually brought into the writing team to maintain the tone of the Guardians while interacting with other heroes. However, 2 months after the release of Infinity War, Marvel released a statement saying that they had fired James Gunn. But why, you might be asking? Well, years before he made it big with Guardians, James Gunn was known for his offbeat and sometimes unsettling sense of humor. During an online argument, some of his past tweets were brought into the limelight, and to say that they were crossing the line would be putting it lightly. This was obviously a problem for Disney and Marvel, as they were known as the family-friendly production studios. So, Big Company did what Big Company always does, and fired James Gunn swiftly. This sent an uproar throughout the internet, with people campaigning on both sides. many people were outraged that the director would say such horrible things on a public platform, while others came to his defense, saying that he apologized years before and has done everything he can to change and become a better person. Even stars like Bautista, Chris Pratt, and many others came to James Gunn's defense, saying that they would not participate in a Guardians 3 without James Gunn at the helm. This was the equivalent of throwing lighter fluid on a burning house. Marvel scrambled. Should they find a new director for the project or just scrap it altogether? This also was happening at the most chaotic time at Marvel, as their big finale, Avengers Endgame, was just about to hit theaters. After nearly a year of fan outcry for Gunn to return, the mouse finally bent the knee in March of 2019, when they released a statement saying that they had rehired James Gunn. Fans were overjoyed. We would not have to settle for a Guardians 3 that was James Gunnless. However, there was another complication. Because of how popular James Gunn's film had become, he had become quite the commodity in Hollywood. So when a struggling DC saw their opportunity, they didn't miss. So before Gunn could finish his Guardians trilogy, he would first have to make his DC debut with the reboot of The Suicide Squad. After nearly 6 years of waiting, we finally got the conclusion to Star-Lord, the Guardians, and everybody else in that universe. And if you thought that the second film was emotional, buddy, I got news for you. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was an absolute gut punch. A true swan song to this family of misfits that we have learned to love. It was emotional, action-packed, and much like the previous films, filled with heart. The obvious standout would be Rocket Raccoon. James Gunn himself would say in interviews that the reason he wanted to make the first Guardians of the Galaxy was because of the character of Rocket Raccoon. He was, in some parts, a self-insert for James Gunn. In many ways, Rocket's story is the story of Gunn himself. This also came at a time where the buzz from Endgame has started to die down, with many people leaving the hype train that was the MCU. Or so we thought. Guardians 3 was a reminder to many audiences of what the MCU was meant to be, and what we lost along the way. This film grossed $846 million worldwide, and yet again received rave reviews, sending off this trilogy on the highest of highs. Volume 3 was quite the definitive end, with the main Guardians team disbanding, Peter finally returning to Earth, and Mantis going off on her own adventures. While we do know that we are going to be seeing Star-Lord and Peter Quill again, and maybe even some of the other Guardians, it will not be with James Gunn at the helm. During his time with DC, James Gunn made a hell of a splash, and is now the CEO of everything creative that DC Studios output, taking the role of Kevin Feige as he tries to steer DC into the right direction. Despite all the behind-the-scenes drama, the Guardians trilogy remains one of the high points of the MCU, bringing us some of the funniest, saddest, and most heart-pounding moments in the series. These films are still talked about as not only the best in the MCU, but of any superhero medium. While Gunn's firing was a stark reminder that the internet is indeed forever, this trilogy was able to overcome these off-screen issues and deliver truly passionate films. What are your thoughts on the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy? Do you have a favorite of the three? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you for watching ScreenRant, and be sure to come back next week for more discussions on your favorite TV shows and movies.